So this is the train behind me. This is the Judah. It is the most frequently running train. It runs 24 hours and it services the city. It's like the most heavily impacted train in San Francisco, and it goes all the way from the Pacific Ocean to downtown San Francisco. And it's like, I have like a funny, weird story, and actually a political story that happened on this train. I was getting on a train, and I was wearing a really short skirt and like boots, and I was feeling really cute, and this woman saw me come on the train. This was downtown, I was heading home, and she was like with her boyfriend, and she turned to him and said in this like really loud whisper, that I was too fat to wear the outfit that I was wearing. And I had like this moment where I thought, okay, I can take the high ground and like not say anything or pretend I didn't hear her, or I can just like open up a can of whoop ass. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go with the whoop ass thing. And so I walk up to her, and I just sort of, in my like feminist but firm assertive ways, like I don't disparage her, but I just sort of explain to her that my body is mine, and that I look really good, and that she doesn't need to be threatened by my short skirt. And then I sat down like right next to her, and we rode in silence for like 45 minutes, all the way from downtown San Francisco to the Pacific Ocean. That's one of my favorite train stories.
Thank you for telling.
Yes. So I was writing about that experience on the train with that woman who said that I was too fat to wear what I was wearing in preparation for the Babe Camp, like the online virtual camp that I'm doing for people who are interested in like changing their relationship to their body. And one of the things that I was writing about was kind of like that window, like that 30 seconds of time, like, or maybe less, where you're kind of going to decide if you're going to say something to the person who said something to you, or if you're just going to sit down and just like let it go and then eat your feelings. And it's like one of those things. I was explaining it like in relationship to like the Matrix, like the bullet scene where it's like, you know, the time is going very, very slowly, but in actuality there's actually a very short window of time when all this is happening, and like it's all slow-mo, and you're thinking like, I could say this, the whoop ass, but like, so anyway, yeah, I decided to, like, knowing that window of time was very brief, I decided to like act on it and just go with my gut and not swallow it, because I think what's frustrating, right, and this is part of like the stress of being somebody who's under scrutiny publicly, like a fat person like me, like a fat woman specifically, is that the stress of like taking the high ground is something that eats away like I think your mental health and to a certain extent your physical health, like that, like there's no way that feeling of like eating your feels, like there's no way, like just stuffing those feels, there's no way that feeling doesn't lead to like physical effects, because it just feels so bad in your body in that moment. And I think what's great for me is like when I talk back, it becomes this way in which I like vomit out the discomfort onto other people, so that we're all sharing the burden. I shouldn't have to be the only one. We should all share this this bigotry, like the cost of bigotry. Yeah. There's just a lot of like...
I'm getting this because it's really pretty.
Yeah.
And interestingly silent here for a minute.
I know, it's so nice.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so obviously the Pacific, you know, this is near the Pacific Ocean. There's always been a lot of surfers, and they kind of have, you know, they tend to sort of stick to that end of the beach. And I don't like, I'm worried that we're gonna get hit by a car.
I know.
So yeah, the surfers have been here for a really long time. What's really interesting to me is, again, like it's a very, even though it's like demographically kind of a similar type of person as like the average San Francisco hipster, they had such a relatively small effect on the culture of the Outer Sunset, and that's something that's really interesting to me. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but there's kind of this community of surfers who have been here way longer than like the hipsters have, but the hipsters have made this like really sort of palpable change in the aesthetic of the Outer Sunset, and especially that little enclave that we just kind of walked past. So I had just left my job working at a high school. I moved into San Francisco, and it's funny because I was really reluctant to move into this apartment with my friend because she has a really intense personality, and I kind of knew that if we moved in together that we would probably stop being friends. And so she asked me like 8 times, she peer pressured me into kind of moving into San Francisco, and the price point held, like it was like $400 for a room or something. And then, you know, of course, as expected, we had a huge blowout. She hates my guts. She decides to move out. She ended up getting a job in Berkeley anyway, so it was like over an hour a day commute. And then I inherited like the rent-controlled lease, so it kind of felt like this really interesting, like serendipitous thing. But I like keep in mind that, you know, you see behind me like the ocean, like there's Golden Gate Park right over there. But for a very long time, there was a huge stigma about living in the Sunset. Like whenever I tell people this is where I live, they'd be like, oh my God, you may as well live in Egypt. I mean, there was just like a lot of this really intense like San Francisco snobbery. And people were very much like, you know, why would you live there? Why would anybody live there? And this was, of course, before all of the evictions that started happening in the Mission. A lot of artists, like, you know, people who were my friends who were artists and activists lived in the Mission because the Mission was such an enclave of like artistic and political you know, folks, and the eviction started happening, and now it's sort of like, as the city is becoming less and less affordable, people are coming into the Sunset and kind of seeing it as their own little like enclave on the edge of the city, and all of a sudden, like, you know, the beach is, I feel like it has this different meaning. It used to mean that you were at the edge of the earth, and that made you like, you know, somehow not hip, and like now it's kind of this like completely turned around, where it's like this secret thing that people know about, and you can get good coffee and good brunch and like hang out at the beach.